How's everybody? Good morning, good morning. Oh, well, we've had a lot of good days, and I've had the opportunity to come out here and be with you lots and lots of times. Sometimes it's a little tougher than other days, but today, really and truly, the reason we're here is to pass on our accolades, our thanks, and to pass on really, a heartfelt appreciation to what these great men and the great men and women that are our first responders all across the state do all the time. And a lot of times it goes unnoticed. So as we celebrate the efforts of these great men today, I want us to just take time at this beautiful time of year, the most significant of all holidays, to always just be appreciative. Be really, truly appreciative. Because I truly believe that that's the way West Virginians are, of the effort of our first responders, no matter who they may be. It's truly amazing when somebody runs to the gunfire or runs to the fire, risks their life, know that their life's in peril, and they're doing it for their fellow man. It's what we ought to do, but not many do it. Not many have the courage to be able to do it. So today, we've got with us some wonderful people that represent our mine rescue. We've got Eugene White, the leader of the band, and he's been with us now for 856 years, and he still looks good, But it's if you could have been there, if you could have been in Clear Creek, if you could have been in Whitesville, if you could have been at their community center, and I was there a good bit, and a lot of times when emotions are really high, sometimes even our first responders don't get the love and the appreciation that they deserve. I saw this man in front of people that were really hurting, really, really hurting. And sometimes when you're really hurting and you're hurting so bad that you just can't control maybe your emotions, and so I saw him stand in front, and there was times when he knew he was doing the right thing, but it still wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for those people, and we had to move faster, and maybe we just weren't doing enough, but we were doing enough. And at the end of the day, we found them. Now, I got to admit, and Eugene will tell you this too, but you had a 350-pound cheerleader that was going crazy and saying, we're not going to quit. We're going to search every single thing. We're going to come up with 1 of 3 results. We're either going to know beyond a doubt that they're not in that mine, or we're going to know they're dead, or we're going to find them alive. And everybody just said that's the mission and that's what we're going to do. And so really and truly, most always, these things end up not very good. They can end up just not very good. But in this situation, we kept at it. And it was cold, and it was wet, and it was dirty, and it was absolutely dangerous, and everything else with it. And lo and behold, we found them. Now, there's a lot of people that would say, well, these people, were in there doing stuff they shouldn't have been doing. May very well have been. These people maybe weren't the pillars of society. Maybe they're not. Maybe they are. What does any of that have to do with anything? At the end of the day, our fellow man was there, and we found him. That's what we're supposed to do. I mean, we're not supposed to say, well, how good a job does this guy have, or how much money does this guy have, or is this guy black or white? We're not supposed to say those things, and we didn't. These great people, they performed their job. Now, listen to me on this, and think about this just for 1 second. For those naysayers that were out there that were saying, well, they shouldn't have been in there in the first place, and by God, you know, they're involved in stuff that they shouldn't be involved in, and really and truly the dickens with them. Think about what would have happened to them if we'd have quit. Somebody stop and think what would have happened to them if we'd have quit. You know what would have happened? I can tell you exactly what would have happened. We would have probably pushed dirt up against the mine opening as best we possibly could. And we would have convinced ourselves if we would have quit, they weren't there. Or if they were there, they were surely dead because the air quality wasn't good enough and they're dead. What would we have done what would have happened if we'd have quit to those people? And one was a little girl that was by herself. Couldn't see her hand in front of her face. By herself, sitting there. What would have happened to those people? Well, you know what would have happened? They had water and they had air. They would have starved to death. They would have sat there for 5 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, and they would have starved to death. Now look, we're better than that. We're better than this. That's all there is to it. So anybody that would second guess the effort that they made, I'd say you're out in left field. These are heroes. That's all there is to it. This is a hero. This is a superstar. These are superstars and they're heroes. So today, and this great man doesn't know this, but we're giving a certificate of recognition to Eugene White, the director. And I can't read any of the rest of it because I can't see it. But nevertheless, I want to get up and shake your hand, and then we're going to give away some certificates to these people. Thank you, sir. Now let's do it this way. All right. There we go, Eugene. Very proud of it. All right, now I'm going to turn this over to you now.
Okay.
And you go over there, and I'm going to sit over here and just...
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the team. They've done an excellent job in representing the state and the citizens of West Virginia, and also the Contour Energy Mine Rescue Team who had other engagements today and couldn't make it. We worked closely together with them, and we came out with a successful event, and proud of everyone. I want to announce the team members and the supervisors who participated in the event. First will be Johnny Kinder, Deputy Director. Frank.
Say something about John before we go any further. I was driving my Suburban, and I was at the, it was, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning, and we were at the community center, and I said, I want to go to the mine portal. I want to go to the mine opening right now. And they said, because they were on the way, they were getting ready to go back in again. And they said, well, you really can't drive that Suburban up there. It just won't make it. There's no way and everything. And so John said, just get in the pickup truck. I said, I'll just drive. I'll drive up there for a little ways. He said, well, you can go to the first area where I guess a staging area and then wait on us there. So we got there, and, John doesn't know, but I've been in every mud hole in this state. And I have absolutely been hung up so many times, it's unbelievable, but getting hung up so many times, you've probably learned how to drive on a dirt road, and so, or a bad road. So we got there, and John told me, you can't go any further. There's no way, no way, no way. I said, John, I'll just go last, and if I get having trouble, I'll come back. So I made it to the next area, and then there was another gentleman that came walking back there out of one of the trucks and said, now look, from here on, it's impossible. There's no way. It is just impossible. You can't go in no way. And I said, let me just go. And so I followed him, and he said, well, his very words, he said, well, we can get a damn bulldozer and pull you out, I guess, you know, if you get hung up and everything. And so, but little did he know that a long time ago, when I was probably about 25, I'm probably one of the only people alive that got pulled out by a train one day. So I've been pulled out a lot of times, but we made it. And I was tickled to be there because none of you'll know. None of you'll know what it was like. I mean, you know, but none of you'll know. I mean, this wasn't like a Walmart parking lot that you go into and, you know, there's a donut shop across the road. I mean, this is back in Hoo-Hoo Hollow so far that it is unbelievable, you know, and it's snow and it's mud and it's cold and it's dark, you know, and it's going to get darker and more dangerous the very second that they go inside the mine. So, yeah, I was really glad to go. I was especially glad to kind of put it all over John, give me a hard time about my driving. But I was there. Okay, go ahead. You change something.
Frank Foster, Deputy Director.
Way to go, buddy.
Jim Hodges, Mine Rescue Coordinator.
Okay, Jim, good job. Gotta look back. You just ripped that out of my hand, didn't you?
Tim Duffy.
Way to go, my friend. Good. Great job.
The remaining, Tim, the remaining members that I'm going to be calling out are our underground inspectors, safety instructors. They make up our mine emergency team. Tim is one of those folks. Mike Vickers.
Hey, Mike. Good job, buddy.
Steve Bowles.
Hey, Steve. How you doing, buddy?
Kevin Riston.
Hey, Kevin. Way to go, man. Got it. Thank you, buddy.
Paul Kozart.
Hey, Paul. Good job, buddy. There you go.
Rick Crookshanks.
Good job, buddy. There you go.
Dan Cook.
Way to go, Dan. Good job, buddy.
Paul Smith.
Way to go, buddy. Great job.
Steve Evans. Daniel Perry. Matt Kreger.
Hey, Matt. Good job.
Charles Moles.
Good job, Charles.
Jeff Spratt.
Hey, Jeff. Good job, brother. There you go.
John Cruz.
Great job, buddy. Thank you.
And Randy Bell was not able to make it today. He had a doctor's appointment, so Randy will get his certificate.
Let me end up by saying 2 or 3 things, and, you know, just as I thought there. You know, when I was there and on one of their efforts, and we were unsuccessful in finding them on this effort, but I was in the parking lot, and they were getting in the trucks with all their gear and getting ready to go. And you wouldn't believe it. But person after person after person, they came walking. I had my window down. And they came walking by, and they grabbed me by my arm and said, "We're going to find them. We're going to find them." You know, over and over and over. You know, these guys are really special. And the Contura people that weren't here today, we need to recognize them. As Eugene did and as I'm doing now, they did a good job too. And they worked at it really hard as well. And the last thing I'd say is just this, and think about it, guys, think about it. How many days in your life, how many days do you get to save somebody's life? How many days, really and truly, can you really say, I saved somebody's life? Not many. Not many. Give them a big round of applause. Way to go, guys. Way to go. Great job. Okay, I'm going to sit back down. I guess we'll answer any questions that you guys have. Maybe Eugene and I will give it our best. And if y'all got any questions about anything, yes, Annie.
Are you going to push forward any legislative changes to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Well, here's what we sure, I would sure be an advocate of more stringent penalties for someone going into the mines. You know, it's a tough issue because just think about this. You know, if we would say, whatever it may be, you know, there's a lot of abandoned buildings all across the state, and I'm just thinking as I'm going here, what are we going to do? What are we going to do if someone goes into an abandoned building, and the bottom floor or the top floor falls and crushes them, and we don't even know they're in there? You know, this issue, I mean, is more difficult than you think. These areas are sealed, and these areas are, you know, either have dirt pushed up or whatever it may be, you know, to try to prevent people from being going into these areas. There are surely people that are going in there, you know, to do wrongdoing and steal copper. You know, that's most generally what they're doing. You know, they don't have any business being in the mines in any way, shape, form, or fashion, let alone going in there to steal something, you know. But and stiffening up the laws and whatever in that regard, yeah, sure. But you know, there'll always be a place that somebody can go, you know, that they shouldn't be. You know, that's all there is to it. So it's we can make it tougher. We can make it more stringent as far as the law. You know, and I would be an advocate of that, yes.
It sounded like you just related going into a mine is the same thing as going into an abandoned building. some people would say that is a lot different. This is a lot more dangerous, and we're putting 16 lives at risk for that. What would you say to those people?
Well, I did not say that. I did not say that at all. What I said was there are areas in life that we shouldn't go. We shouldn't go. Now, there's no question that going into, you know, an abandoned mine is surely far more risky than going into an abandoned building. But we still shouldn't go. You know, I did not try to compare in any way going into an abandoned building versus going into an abandoned mine. But at the same time, if you go into an abandoned building and that building collapses and there's issues, these people got to go. These people are going, you know, and the floors can collapse or anything can collapse on them just as well. You know, there's no question that the degree of difficulty or the degree of badness, if that's the correct word, is far greater to go in an abandoned mine. Yeah, that's all there is to it. But I'm just saying that people go in areas they shouldn't go in all the time.
Eugene, maybe you could answer this question. What was the team facing? What was it really like down there? If you can give it to the average people that may have never been in a mine before.
Okay, well, the first thing we have to do is we have to assess the opening to see if it's safe to enter. On this event, we did that, and then we elected to, and we took our readings to see what the oxygen content was in the mines. We determined at that time we could go a little ways in. So when the teams enter, they go with their apparatuses on their back, and maybe if the oxygen content is down low enough, they'll don their apparatus. That apparatus will allow them 4 hours of oxygen. So we send the teams in. There's all kinds of unknowns in abandoned sealed coal mines. There could be water, there could be roof falls, there could be gases, black damp, low O2, or even methane, explosive gases. So all those unknowns, when we're entering a mine like this, looking for missing persons, plus we have to realize we're looking for someone. If we find them, what kind of shape are they going to be in? Are they going to be combative? Are they going to be happy? Do they carry weapons? You know, so those are a lot of the dangers that the teams face.
How long was this mine abandoned for, and what was it? Everything that you guys training-wise? Can you talk about how you train for these types of situations?
Because the mine had been idle for 2 years, which allowed us to move quicker compared to other abandoned mines. This mine, with the mine roof secured, we was able to go in it without doing any kind of work. And what was the second part of your question?
Training. How do you guys prepare?
These guys were mandated by law to train 96 hours a year. On top of we compete, and we don't compete, but we participate in all mine rescue contests throughout the state, mine emergency disaster drills with the coal companies. There's a lot of time spent with the team's training.
Are any of the rescuers injured in the course of the search?
No, ma'am. No one was injured that I'm aware of.
With no serious injuries happening, do you have a message to the 3 that were rescued?
Well, I hope to the Lord above that they've learned something and that they'll never even think about doing anything like this in any way, shape, form, or fashion again. And I hope to the Lord above that they pass on a message to others that just prohibits others from being, or surely encourages others to never do such a thing as this again, because it truly does put at risk these great people. That's all there is to it, you know. And not only that, you know, it puts at risk community and families, and you know, from the standpoint of, you know, a family member having a heart attack, or the families driving in from out of state, you know, that are trying to come and support their families. There's so much repercussions on the downside of someone doing this. I mean, that's just plain all there is to it. But at the same time, throughout all time, people do things they shouldn't do. And then, you know, whether it be just a mistake in a coal mine and an explosion or whatever it may be. I mean, you think of the fire that happened in Parkersburg, and nobody could figure out what to do, and the town is, you know, the fumes and everything else in the area are just overtaking everything, and nobody can make a decision because it's a private building, and the insurance carrier is not stepping up and not doing it. Somebody's got to do something, you know. And at that point in time, I made a decision. We had to do something from the governor's standpoint. We had to do it, you know. But every time, you know, this life, you know, absolutely carries with it a lot of situations in which people do things they shouldn't do and everything. Let's hope to goodness we never are ever faced with this again. But I'm telling you, that's why we have these people.
Governor, no legal actions have been taken against these people. Do we know of any future with that?
Well, that's kind of out of my area, you know, really and truly. The, you know, I guess all the legality, the law enforcement and everything else, they'll deal with these people, and they'll deal with them as they should.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the actual finding these people? How did you guys find them? Were they separated? You know, how far in? Like what, maybe who stumbled upon them?
I can answer some of it, and then I'll bring one of the team members that actually was there with them. It was approximately 5,000 foot in the mine. One of them was found by herself, SETI. The other ones were like about 1,000 foot away from her, together in another location. Steve Evans, come on up here, please. Steve was one of the, and we did this jointly with the coal company. We sent 4 guys, they sent 4. So, but Steve was representing us when we found the one individual, and all he can tell you about her experience.
Okay, when we was walking along, and I looked through a hole in the stop, and I went over and shined my light through it and hollered, and I didn't get nothing, and I walked away. And one of the contours men come by and seen a red sticking in that hole in that stopping. She had seen my light and come toward it. And then she told us where the other 2 were, and we went and got them.
How were they? First words they said to you, what did you say to them? Were they, you know, were they crying?
They were crying, and they were real thankful to be found.
What was your initial thought when you first spotted her?
Well, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Were the tips from Ed Williams helpful in finding the other 3?
Go ahead.
Mr. Williams was the individual that came out of the mines. I don't remember what days all went together, but Eddie did give us tips of where he thought they were, and that's where we concentrated on our exploration. But I've personally spoken to one of the individuals that was rescued, and she told me they did move. They tried to move around the mine, so there was, while we're looking, they were moving, so that's why it took us a little longer to try to locate them. But yes, Mr. Williams convinced me that they were in there. I know him personally, and I told him, I said, Eddie, we're getting ready to send people in. I need to know, are they in there? And he convinced me that they were. So yes, Mr. Williams assisted us in trying to locate the missing persons.
Brad, did you have a question?
Yes, sir. I just wondered, there were 2 somewhat similar incidents in a row, and it's been a while since I have heard of people breaking into mines to steal copper or whatever. That was something that happened a few years ago, and it feels like it tapered off. So what I wondered is if you think there's a motivating factor that binds these 2 incidents together, aside from simple theft. Is it economic factors, drug addiction, the holidays approaching? Is there anything that's caused these to pop up all at once?
I mean, Brad, I would say the answer to your question is like the waitress that comes over to your table and says, sir, do you like your eggs scrambled or fried? And you say, yes. You know, and you know, that's the answer. I mean, it could be a fact, it could be a combination of anything that you came up with.
Well, I would make the comment that we as a rescue group, we only get notified of persons been in mines when there's an issue or a problem. So a person comes up missing or someone knows someone went in and they didn't come out. This probably goes on a lot every day probably. And probably there's people going in and out of these abandoned mines and we don't know nothing about it until something comes up missing or someone's injured. There's abandoned mines everywhere all over this state. I'm talking mines 50 years old. And they're out there, and I would, in my opinion, it probably goes on a lot.
Governor, we've been dealing a lot with one of the incidents involving West Blackburn and him still being missing. So do we see for any action involving that incident or?
Well, first of all, from my standpoint, you know, I've got to go with the expertise of these other people and everything. And I think, Eugene, maybe you can comment on West Blackburn. I know that's an issue, and but he can tell you what they've done, you know, and I guess that's the most significant thing. If they go in, they go both ways, there's roof falls on both ways, they can't get through and everything. They search the area that they can search, you know, that's about what they can do.
Okay, on the incident I think you're talking about is the old Eastern Associated Coal, Lightfoot number 1. Yes, we were notified of that, I think in November. Me and myself and supervisor went to the site and evaluated. This mine had been sealed for 20 plus years. We found where it appeared people were entering the mines. The first thing we did is we followed all leads, Boone County Sheriff, Wyoming County Sheriff, State Police. Before we even make an attempt to go into mines, we want to make sure indeed someone's in there. In this incident, he came out according to the individual that was with him, said he turned around, he was going, so nobody knows for sure whether Mr. Blackburn re-entered the mine. We did make an attempt to enter this mines. We got blocked by roof falls any way we went. We do not travel over roof falls or through unsupported top. So we did attempt and explored this mine as much as we could safely.
How long was it before Ed Williams notified first responders that the other 3 were inside, from the time he left the mine to the time he got in touch with you all, or you all got in touch with him?
Mr. Williams was detained by the, I think it was maybe the Whitesville Police or Raleigh County, I'm not sure, or Boone County. We'd already made an attempt to go into mines that day and was stopped by low O2, low oxygen, and we came back. Our teams can advance in under apparatus, but it gets to the point where we go in so far and the air is so bad, we got to come back so we can make sure we get those guys back to fresh air. And that's, but Mr. Williams, I'm not for sure the date that he located. I was present when they detained him. I was standing there and I spoke to him that night. He gave us tips that night. And again, he convinced me that they were in there. So we had already tried to enter the mines looking, because we was looking for him too. He was one of the missing persons.
I think I can probably answer that a little bit too. Is I think Eddie came out of the mines on Monday evening at some point in time. I don't know exactly the time, and then he was just missing for a little while, and then we located him and everything, and then it's when he came and talked with Eugene, because then they notified me about, well, they called me at 9 o'clock and said that the fellow had come out of the mines, and he said the other people were in the mines and they were alive. And that's when I took off to Whitesville right then. And so one other person who should be mentioned here is Jan Cahill, because, you know, when we were going back in there, you know, when these great guys were going back in there, when I drove all the way to the mine site that night, and they were going in, the idea was going directly to where Eddie Williams had said they were. And we really felt like, everybody here felt like we were going to get them. That's what was going to, we were going to find them, and that's where they're going to be, and they're going to be alive, okay? And so we did. We went there, and we couldn't find them. And, and so the next morning at, well, I don't know. I mean, the times are all going together. But say about 7 o'clock in the morning, you know, at 4:30, Eugene came and we went back to the community center to tell them that we hadn't found them, and that they were getting more canisters of oxygen and everything, and going to go back and look some more. Okay, so at that point in time, then about 7 o'clock in the morning, I contacted Jan Cahill and said, Jan, you know, we've got to find Eddie Williams because I thought he was in jail. I thought Cahill would have to go get him out of jail. But I said, Jan, wherever he is, get him and get him back to Eugene, and let's just look at the maps one more time just to make absolute sure that we didn't miss an area and everything. So he came back again. Jan Cahill found him, or found where he was. He came back to Eugene. You know, they got him back together. They looked again. They expanded the area a little bit, and then that's when they decided to go to the other side of the mines, ventilate the mines more and everything, and then go back in with a larger rescue team on both sides. That's when they found him.
So you didn't voluntarily come to first responders and police?
I think he did the first go round, and then and he was willing the second go round and everything, but we just, you know, I didn't know if he was in jail and we had to go through some process to get him out of jail to come again, but I, you know, go ahead, Eugene.
Mr. Williams was very cooperative. He voluntarily came to me. Again, he knows me and I know him, so he trusted me. That was one of the hard things about this event, is all four of these individuals in this community is where I live. So the families were wanting answers, and they looked to me for answers. And sometimes, like Governor stated, they were wanting us to move quicker. They didn't understand the process. But we had a plan, and we was going by the plan. But yes, Mr. Williams did voluntarily. And Mr. Williams, the 2 times I personally interviewed him, was very emotional, very emotional. So again, he convinced me they were in there. If he hadn't have, I don't, you know, we're not just going to run in abandoned coal mines if we don't think, unless we know somebody's in there.
One thing we've heard in the past week is that besides harsher penalties is also copper, you know, they're going in for copper, and that maybe mines should have to pull that copper before they close them. Is that even realistic, or do you think something should be implemented to help deal with this problem?
I don't know. I even mentioned the possibility of, you know, everyone knows this copper when it comes to a junkyard or wherever it comes to, that somebody's going to purchase it. And people know the difference between just run-of-the-mill copper and industrial grade or mine grade copper. And there may very well be, you know, things that we can put in place that prohibits people from being able to buy that copper. Now, as far as the mines being responsible to take everything out of the mines and so on like that, you know, to be perfectly honest, you know, I don't know. I really don't know. I think that's kind of out of my pay grade, to tell you the truth. I don't know the complications and the difficulties that, you know, that would lead to, and if that is prohibitive or not prohibitive. The only other thing I would say too is just don't lose sight of just this. When they found these people, they were 5,000 feet underground, you know, and that's a long ways. And you know, if you know what a coal mine looks like, you've got entries running everywhere like my hands here, and you know, in between the entries, you can't see. I mean, you talk about in a real mess. I mean, if you were there and black dark where you can't see your hand in front of your face, and the light source that you had run out, and you're in a maze. I mean, that's all there is to it, a maze in the dark. And so it's a real Christmas miracle we found these people.
My last question is, how much experience among this group or do you have to be a mine rescuer?
Your question was how much experience to become one?
To become one, and maybe this group has as a whole.
Well, first of all, you got to want to do it. I mean, these guys and all other mine rescue team members across this country, we go in when everybody else is trying to get out. We're like the fire departments. So first of all, and most important, you got to have it in your heart. And then the experience is you got to be a coal miner. You got to have 5 years, what our guys got, as far as at least 5 years experience underground to become an inspector. I've got 45 years experience in mining, so the experience comes and we train you. I mean, if you look at this group, we don't have very many young guys. It's tough carrying 40-some pounds on your back, breathing oxygen, and bending over and going in a coal mine. So we try to get the younger guys as much as we can. But experience is more important than anything, in my opinion, is you got to have it in your heart to do this.
Mr. White, after a mission is completed like this, was certain things calculated, like how many hours this mission cost you guys and the cost of this mission alone?
We have debriefed with different folks, and we're not perfect. No one's perfect. We all make mistakes. We debrief on what we did, how we could do better, or could we change something that we done. The cost, we have not calculated that yet, but we're in the process of it. As far as the state agency, I can't speak for the support from the National Guard and the West Virginia State Police and all the law enforcement, the communities, everybody pitched in. This was a real group effort of a lot of individuals to make this happy outcome.
Could you give an estimate of how much ground was covered over those few days that they were down there searching for them?
25 square miles. That's traveling in and all the cross cuts. Because when we're looking for someone, we got to look every inch of the coal mine over, try to locate them. Because for one, if they're tired, they may be laying down. And we don't want to walk past them. But we had it calculated by our engineer. It was 25, one direction. In other words, we was in and out of this mine 3 or 4 times. So the total distance that we traveled could be more. It's going to be more than that. But it was a 25 square mile area.
How big is the seam?
This coal seam varied. Some of the guys, you could walk some, and you had to bend over some. So it varied from, I'd say, 4.5 foot to 6, maybe.
Let me throw out one other thing, and I think someone brought this up earlier, but this drug situation in the state of West Virginia is tough, really bad. And it's high time that everybody in this great building here realizes what we've got to do to stop it or to change courses of where we're at. Again, I wish so much that all of our legislatures, all of our people could just have been there and been with those families down there. Drugs are cannibalizing that community. That's all there is to it. They have already cannibalized that community. And everyone is touched. Good people, good people. I mean, they're coming up to me over and over and over. There's story after story after story. And so I have said it, and we're making inroads, but we're making inroads that aren't good enough. They're just not good enough. We passed a referendum here to build roads. Great stuff. And really and truly, our state is moving in a better path. We made a real commitment to education and our veterans, and we've done this stuff. But I am telling you, the next war absolutely has to be the drugs. We have got to stop this. That's all there is to it. I mean, these people are just suffering beyond belief, and they're our people, you know, and so it's high time to put whatever resources and whatever people and whatever we got to do to stop it. We're capable of stopping it, but it's bad. It's just bad.
Preliminary estimates of how much this cost? I mean, as the governor, you probably know how much, they don't.
You mean this operation here? I don't have an accurate estimate and everything. You know, it's again, just think. You know, we are a society that has mine rescuers or police force or whatever it may be, and there's somebody that does something bad, you know, and the police force, you know, whether it be our SWAT teams or whether it be our, you know, special people in every way, we come and we do everything and everything to stop or to find them and everything. The cost is enormous. It's enormous, no matter what the situation may be. It's always enormous, and so.
So should the 3 people involved in this be, you know, have to pay some restitution or something to pick up that? Why should the taxpayers fund this bill?
Absolutely, you know, I would be in favor of the strictest penalties that you could come up with to try to discourage people from doing this. There's no question whatsoever about that. But you're moving into areas that are very, 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 very difficult. Very difficult. Okay, everybody, thank y'all.